Hey ladies, hey BWP, how are you? We are just coming off of our When Helping Hurts video, and we are now available for our live Q&A. I want to thank you all for joining in. Your energy, it seems like you really enjoyed the self-care strategies. I know we're a little bit behind schedule, so I just wanted to jump on to give everyone a few minutes to get on and answer any questions that you may have about the video and better ways for you to take care of yourselves. I do want to start off by answering one of the questions that came up. Let me see. Hey Bridget, hey Pam, thanks for joining on. How are you? So one of the questions that came up that I get asked a lot is, what is my shutdown routine? So I have different shutdown routines. I have one that I think is really important, and it's when I'm coming from the office. After a long day at the office, I have a private counseling practice with my partner Tess. And if I have a long day when I've been experiencing a lot of emotional stress, hearing a lot of sad stories, I'm very mindful about my drive home. I don't take personal calls. Sometimes I don't listen to any music. Most of the times I am engaged in mindful driving, and what that is just being in the moment with the music off, just concentrating on driving, on breathing, and just being in the moment, because I need to quiet my mind, because there's a lot going on in my mind, and the mind's connected to the body. So I'm just being very aware of myself in the present. And when I get home, before I go in the house, I might take 2 minutes just to take a deep breath and reflect on some of the good things that happen. Although I may have heard a lot of sad stories throughout the day, I want to take some time to reflect on what went well, how I may have handled the situation well, and how the people that I'm helping are resilient, how they're able to overcome adversity. Because when we're able to find that silver lining and look at it through a different lens, it can keep us going. So by the time I'm getting in the house, I'm not tired. And a lot of times my husband may burn incense because he likes to set the mood, but I wash the day off. So I take a shower so that I can wash the day off, and that's my way of fully transitioning home. So to answer that question, what's my shutdown routine? That's my shutdown routine coming home. Hello, thanks everybody for joining in. Hey Shantae, hope everybody enjoyed the self-care strategies. I want to ask you all, what's one non-negotiable self-care strategy that you are going to employ today? Because that's something that came up in our When Helping Hurts talk in the disconnect strategy. I talked about non-negotiable self-care, and what that is one thing you're going to implement in your daily regimen. No matter what's going on, you are going to make sure you do that before you go to bed at night, before you serve another person. If you haven't done anything for yourself before you go to sleep, even if that means 5 minutes of silence, even if that means rubbing your own feet, whatever you have to do for yourself, what is the one thing that you're going to do for yourself today before you go to bed at night? And what if you began to implement that for the next 7 days? Just notice how life could be a little bit different for you, and how you can begin to look at things a little bit differently. All right. Okay, just looking through the questions. All right. So, hey Bridget, welcome. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody enjoyed the self-care strategies. I'm seeing a lot of familiar people on here, the same people who were on the video. Hey Amber. I know with compassion fatigue and burnout, I look at those terms as cousins, because they are in the same family. The only difference is compassion fatigue is for the people who help those people who are traumatized, and burnout can be experienced by anyone. Burnout can be the administrative assistant who's working 75 hours per week and barely getting any time out. It can be an entrepreneur, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, who is self-employed. You're just getting a business started, and maybe you can't afford a full staff. So you're doing everything from running a business to being the technician in the business, to taking the trash out, to answering the phone, to doing the accounting. You're pretty much doing everything. So that leaves little time for anything else. And you're excited at first because, hey, it's your business. This is your baby. Our businesses are like our babies. If you think of it, if you think of the age your business is, think about a kid. For example, Hand in Hand, or private counseling practice, is 6 years. It will be 6 years old November 1st. So it has the same, very similar needs as a 6-year-old. And if you're not careful, it's very easy to get burned out. So that's what burnout is. Burnout is the physical manifestation when you start to experience those physical symptoms, when you start to begin to feel differently about the work you love to do, about the business that you once loved, and you begin to experience that apathy. And the thing about these symptoms is they creep up very slowly, and because we're such hard workers and society glorifies busyness, we ignore the signs. So we just keep going and going and going and going and going until one day we have a panic attack. Well, that panic attack didn't just come in from anywhere. Those signs were there. We just ignored them because we were too busy. All right. If compassion fatigue is trauma, what steps to take to address the trauma? Shantae asked. That's a very good question. So compassion fatigue, or secondary traumatic stress, is an indirect trauma. So you are witnessing and experiencing and hearing the stories of people who have been traumatized. The best example I can give is a therapist. I'm a therapist, so I hear a lot of sad stories. So there really is no way to avoid it. Like, that's why I refer to it as the common cold. The region that I live in is Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. So today it was cold and raining. Earlier, right now it's sunny. Tomorrow it might be snowing. Who knows? So that's completely out of my control. So we're prone to this common cold as helping professionals. However, there are ways for us to remedy it, and make sure that we're taking proper precautions, taking the right, medications. Like we're I hate to say it, but we're constantly kind of putting we're putting a Band-Aid on it. So it may be the intentional self-care, just being aware of your body when you're in the moment, being aware of your breathing, being aware of your facial expressions when you are experiencing these really sad stories. A lot of intentional self-care. That's why I said journaling is something that's really, really good. I know a lot of people don't like it, but when we talk about intentional journaling, if you have finished with someone who has experienced a lot of trauma, maybe journaling down some unsettling emotions that came up for you for about a minute, and then take some time to do some deep breathing or do some stretching or do some walking so that you can move that through your body. But, unfortunately, Shantae, if we're doing this type of work, there's no way for us to get around that, because there are so many sad stories that we sometimes hear in a given day. It's what we do to take care of ourselves in the moment and afterwards. In the Compassion Fatigue ebook that everybody who's on this video today received, there are some strategies in that book. It goes into depth about compassion fatigue, and it goes into depth about mindful empathizing, and what that means is just being aware of how you empathize in the moment, because there is research that says that if we are overly empathetic or we are mindlessly empathizing, I don't know if anybody ever had a therapist who's crying with them. That's not good for the therapist, because now we can't be objective and we're not taking good care of ourselves. But the ebook goes into depth in that. And I also have a book that many of you would probably enjoy. It's called Calm Mind, Calm Body, Calm Spirit, the A to Z Self-Care Journal for Anxiety Relief. It's on my website, www.vitaminchealing.com, and there are 26 strategies that can help you with that in the moment self-care and after you have experienced the event. All right, I want to make sure I get to some more questions. You guys are asking some really good questions. It takes longer to recover from than it to take effect. Yes, somebody said that years ago they experienced burnout, and it does wear you out. It can take some time to recover from. That's why I think it's really good for us to try to be proactive about it. So when you are experiencing those signs, and I want to go through those signs again and again, those signs are going to be in the Compassion Fatigue ebook. But if you are starting to slowly feel disconnected from the work, if you are starting to experience that loss of hope, if you're starting to feel irritable, if you're starting to feel withdrawn, isolated, not knowing whether you're coming or going, having a hard time being in the moment, and starting to feel that anxiety when it comes to work, please do not dismiss those as, some phase, something you'll get through. That's when we want to start to implement that self-care. That's when we want to pay attention to those signs, because we don't want it to get to the point where we are having panic attacks, where we are feeling depressed and having those suicidal ideations. Because when it gets to that point, now it's a more serious condition, and it's still not something that you can't come away from, but it just takes a lot longer. So there are things that we can do now to be a little bit more proactive. You're welcome, Shantae. And something else I mentioned a little bit, we have a couple more minutes, I believe, was the stress cycle. A term that I just came across is about the stress cycle. So it's about making sure that we complete that stress cycle, because there are, like I said in the video, there are stressors that are going to come up throughout the day that we just cannot control. If you're an adult, let me take that back. If you are a live person with a pulse in today's society, you can't get away from stressors, right? There are bills, there are toxic people, toxic relationships, annoying customers, annoying clients, annoying kids, annoying spouses. Like, there are just stressors that we're not going to get away from. That reminds me of life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. So it's about how we're going to manage those stressors, how we're going to manage our internal stress. That's what it's about. So how can we complete that stress cycle on a daily basis? The best way, and this is evidence-based, so you don't want to miss this, the best way for us to complete that stress cycle is through physical movement, because any type of stress, any type of trauma, any type of anxiety, depression, it has to be metabolized. It has to be physically moved through our body, because that's energy. Like I said, when we tense up, when I have clients that I work with, when I see them tensing up, I work to try to get them out of that fetal position and into some type of movement when they're telling a story. So like I said, it doesn't have to be a high impact activity. It could be something as simple as walking, jumping up and down, if you want to do a few jumping jacks, stretching, but doing some type of movement to get that energy through your body every day. So some type of physical movement is a great way for us to make sure that we close that stress cycle, because we're going to experience stress every day. So if we experience stress every day, don't we want to make sure that we're ending that stress cycle? Because the last thing we want is a buildup of incomplete stress cycles in our symptoms. That's why people are having panic attacks. That's why people are having nervous breakdowns. That's why people are going on Family Medical Leave Act for burnout. That's why people are leaving the work that I love, the helping profession, because they have not found ways to end that stress cycle. All right. We need to better manage the stress cycle. Can you explain some of the signs of anxiety or panic attacks? Thank you, Tracy. That's a really good question. So anxiety and panic attacks, they pretty much the same thing. They look different for a lot of people, but a lot of times people say that they start to feel really, really warm and really, really hot. Some people may feel frozen. Some people may start to experience increased heart palpitations. Some people may experience sweaty palms. So when you are noticing this physical arousal, that may be a sign that you are having an anxiety attack. And I'm not going to say it's okay, but the worst thing you can do is lean into that panic. So that's when the deep breathing may be helpful, because what we want to do is we want to slow it down. Or you may want to, some people have found that laying on a cold surface or putting cold ice just right under their eyes has been helpful, because that brings us to a place of shock. It brings us back to the present. But the worst thing that we can do is, and that's what people say, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack. I'm having a panic attack. That's very, very common. And also the best thing to do is to begin to practice that breathing, that 3-6 extended exhale breathing while you're in a more calm place, because now you're training your brain and your body about what it's like to be in a relaxed state. We don't want to wait until we're having an anxiety attack to start doing it. The brain has memory, the body has memory, so we want to get our system used to being able to relax. All right? I hope I answered that question for you. And yeah, I didn't know. I remember having anxiety attacks. I didn't know that's what they were at the time. I literally couldn't breathe. Yeah, they could be very scary. Most people think that they are about to die. They feel like a heart attack. And a lot of times when you go to a medical professional and they rule out anything medical, they say anxiety. And a lot of times when people are telling me about pain and about the heavy breathing, as a mental health professional, the first thing I think is anxiety, but we have to rule out the medical first because who knows what could be going on internally. But like I said, stress contributes to 90% of illnesses. So a lot of times it really is anxiety. I mean, I can get into a whole discussion about childhood trauma that manifests into medical and physical conditions as adults because we didn't know that it was a trauma. So we go throughout our whole childhood, young childhood and adolescent years without anything being done. And then now we're adults and we have gastrointestinal symptoms. We have a hard time, excuse my language, but moving our bowels. We're having heart problems, cardiovascular issues. You know, it's all traced back to that. If there are any more questions, I'm going to make sure that I hang around. You guys are asking some really good questions. I love this stuff. I can talk about this forever. But I know we have another great speaker coming on. And again, I encourage you to visit my website, www.vitaminchealing.com. You can schedule a consult with me or get one of the books from the Vitamin C collection that will help you manage stress, anxiety, compassion, fatigue, and burnout. Again, I highly recommend, where did I put it? I'll show it to you. The Calm Mind, Calm Body, Calm Spirit journal. It's a great journal. It's a way to help you intentionally journal so you're not free associating. And I just want to thank everybody for joining me. You asked some really great questions. I can't wait to keep the conversation going. And I just want to leave you with, you cannot be a top performer if you don't feel well. Please take care of yourself, ladies. Have a great evening.